When Geraldine and I tell our girls about growing up in the 80s and 90s, it's like talking about a whole different planet.
We used to play outside till the street lights came on.
We drank straight out of the water hose, ran everywhere, explored, got lost, got hurt, busted our knees, our heads, and our butts. Nobody knew where we were, what we were doing, or who we were with.
I'm Chris Jones. I'm a rocket scientist, a minister, and a girl dad. And I have a theory about why childhood and everything else feels different now. Because gravity hasn't changed, but the price of a trip to the hospital has.
Blue jeans, Jordans, gas, groceries, and health insurance.
Everything is more expensive, and it's scaring us out of risk, innovation, and the joy of life itself. It was more affordable to fall, to fail, to get back up. And our parents trusted America enough to let us run free. Bankruptcy was for gamblers and crooked real estate developers, not middle-class families, not teachers, not cancer patients.
I'm running for Congress because the fall of the American working class wasn't an accident. It was a political decision. Meet my congressman, French Hill, the most powerful banker in America.
He's my opponent, but he's your problem too. He chairs the Financial Services Committee and fights anything that looks like consumer protection. The law to limit overdraft fees to $5.
This is a change that could save American households $5 billion in overdraft charges every year.
French Hill killed it. Yep, they even found a way to make being broke more expensive.
If there's anybody who's got to go, it's him. I'm blessed. I studied hard, earned 2 degrees from Morehouse College, then 2 masters and a PhD from MIT. I married my best friend, who's a combat veteran and an ER doctor. God gave us 3 beautiful daughters, and along that journey, I earned the votes of 319,000 Arkansans who believe we deserve better. I have good news for you. You can still go outside till the street lights come on. We call it organizing. Just you and a few friends fighting for your freedom, standing up for each other. We have 12 months to win this election.
We have a poll that makes this a 1-point race and a grassroots organization that has been growing for 3.5 years.
This district is full of fighters. We're doing the hard work, and we need you to join us.
It's time for a little comedy, a little content, and a lot of conversation. It's the Geno Jones Show, exclusively right here on YouTube. Now here's your host, Geno Jones.
Hey, what's happening, everybody? Showtime! It is showtime. What's going on? It's going to be a hell of a show. I know every show is a hell of a show, but it's going to be a hell of a show. I promise you. I guarantee. Somebody say guarantee, not guarantee. Guarantee. All right, now, normally Monday through Friday, 7. Okay, all right. Something popped up on my screen on one of my monitors. Normally Monday through Friday, 7:30 Eastern, 6:30 Central Time. Chicago, I see you. Chi-Town, stand up. Everybody from Minneapolis to Milwaukee to Memphis, St. Louis, stand up. Little Rock, Arkansas, Jackson, Mississippi, New Orleans. I see you. Everybody doing everything live. Hey, Denver, Mountain Time, 5:30, live in Los Angeles, Las Vegas, up and down the West Coast, including Seattle and Portland, Oregon, where my firstborn had our firstborn, Boogie, a.k.a. Lauren, and Little Hendrix Blue Vaughn. All right, so 4:30 p.m., everybody. So this weekend, of course, it's White Juneteenth Day. It's the colonizer Juneteenth Day on Saturday, celebrating America celebrating its birthday. So that is the official White Juneteenth Day. So in the meantime, those of us who are melanated, we're just going to be vibing with the family and everything, and whatever you do, just do you. It's all good. So we will definitely be here Thursday on the 2nd of July. Now, the 3rd is still no official decision on July 3rd. Of course, on Saturday, we don't do a live show. Very rarely will we do a show on Saturday. No, normal, that's not our normal days. Okay, just kind of give you a heads up. All right, everybody, listen. Like, share, and subscribe. Spread the word. Tell everybody. I mean, everybody call your call to action is tell everybody. to subscribe to the channel, support Black-owned media. Please continue to support Black-owned media. Shout out to Dr. Chris Jones. He's running to be the first congressperson from the state of Arkansas. You just saw his commercial, and I thank him for supporting Black-owned media and Black-owned businesses. It is so important that we support Black-owned media because it's tell the truth, shame the devil, as my grandmother said, because there's a whole lot of lying going on. I mean, as my grandmother would say, they are sticking to the lie. She said, oh, you gonna stick to the lie. That means you just gonna keep telling the lie to my face. Stick to the lie. So you want the truth, you gotta come here. So important. We need your financial support. You can do that via Zelle, Geno Jones Show at Gmail. That's it. Gmail, Geno Jones Show. Or you can Cash App, $ Dad G Jones. All one word. I know, Dad G Jones. I'll give you that at the end of the show. I just needed to put that up top. My guest, a great legal mind. He is the official legal expert for the Geno Jones Show. He is family, full disclosure. Shawn Mitchell, you will see just brilliant brother on camera shortly. First of all, speaking of brilliant brothers, I got to shout out Michael Jackson. Now listen, let me just say this from the top. They say from the door, from the rip, whatever slang you want to say. Stop comparing anybody to Michael Jackson. Just stop, okay? Just stop it. Stop comparing anybody. And there's no shade to anybody. I mean, past or present. From Prince to Chris Brown to Usher to Beyonce, even Janet. And I love me some Janet. And Janet is the blueprint. But the blueprint for the blueprint was Michael. And why do I say that? Michael Jackson's Billie Jean. Billie Jean's not my lover. The kid is not my son. So that song that came out on January 2nd, 1983. You got that? Think about that. January 2nd, 1983. So that is 43 and a half years ago. Billie Jean, once again, is number one. This time it is number one on the Billboard R&B Digital Song Sales Chart. That means folks are just downloading and streaming and paying for it because it's the Digital Song Sales Chart. So they ain't just streaming it and stealing it. They are paying for it. And Billie Jean, 43 and a half years later, is number one again. And Michael, the movie, biopic, it is the number one biggest selling biopic ever. Nearly $1 billion with a B. $977 million. That was last weekend, so it's going to pass $1 billion this weekend. Real quick, because we got some really important legal stuff. So LeBron James is leaving the Los Angeles Lakers. I hope he goes to Golden State with the Warriors. For over 40 years, I was a Lakers fan when they traded Anthony Davis, who's from Chicago, South Side. I got pissed off. But then now, yet the way you all disrespected LeBron, yeah, y'all may have did him solid earlier, but you did him dirty later, especially now. So that's why he's up out of there. So y'all chose Austin Reeves over LeBron, and I get it. There are those in Lakers management that would like to have if they could have an all colonizer, they would like to have an all-white team. Okay, just take my word for it. Okay, there are folks inside. There are folks inside that Laker universe that if they could have, if we could get like 5 white stars, kind of like the Boston Celtics back in the 80s, trust me, I know what I'm talking about. So, you know what? In the 80s, it was showtime. So now it's going to be snow time, I guess. So good luck with the new Snowtime Lakers. See how that's going to work out for you. The new MAGA Snowtime Lakers coming to a city near you. My great legal mind, he is here, ladies and gentlemen. The Supreme Court just showed his ass the last couple days because they're going on vacation. You've seen him on the show several times. He's based in Chicago, but like I said, he's the official legal expert and a brilliant legal mind. And then we just bring him on the show without any further delay because there's so much to cover, starting with this Birthright Citizenship decision. Shawn Mitchell. So, Shawn, I want to start everything with a question. not related to one specific. Well, yeah, I guess you could say based on this birthright citizenship case. And here's the question. So the way this government has been, or some would say criminal enterprise, has been structured, you have the executive branch, which is, of course, the president and his cabinet, his or hers. If we ever get a woman president, that's a whole nother conversation. Should have had one, but I digress. Then you have the legislative branch, which is the Congress, U.S. senators, U.S. House of Representatives. Then you have the judicial branch, which is the Supreme Court. Now, the Constitution was birthed out of this the legislative branch, and of course the executive branch. They have to sign off on whatever bill Congress sends to the White House, and the president has to sign off on it. So my question is, though, if all three branches are co-equal, the Supreme Court could have overturned an amendment that's in the Constitution. So that doesn't seem co-equal. It seems like the Supreme Court could kind of just Bigfoot the legislative branch. So kind of explain to me and the listeners, because after we talked, we did like our pre-show meeting in my brain. I'm like, well, wait a minute. Actually, I thought about it in the car. I was like, so the Supreme Court could have basically thrown out the 14th Amendment? Like, really? Y'all, that's not equal to me. So help me out with that.
Right. Well, that's a little bit of a stretch. And let me start by saying thank you for having me on, Geno. Offline, I'll talk about how great the Bulls will be compared to the Lakers. That's a conversation for another time. But under the Constitution, the judicial branch operates as, a review agency. The foundation of their powers is to be a review agent to review various laws, conflicts between citizens or between citizens and government or between citizens and foreign citizens or foreign corporations. And so that's what you have to really think about. Now, if you flash back, since we're on I'll give a quick lesson. If you really want to flash back to 250 years ago, well, roughly 30 years after 1776, more like 28 years, in 1803, you had the Supreme Court case of Marbury versus Madison. Now, I know nobody listening is in law school, but in law school, this is the official time where the courts kind of get into asserting their power.
Okay.
And so basically, Marbury versus Madison is the precedent for court power, the power to interpretate, the power to go through, allow citizens to be heard and adjudicated through a fair process.
Okay.
And so when we get into some of the things, like to start with our first of the major, I would say 6 cases, and I want the listeners to understand and the viewers, I'm not minimizing any other cases that the Supreme Court has addressed this term, but usually what happens with the Supreme Court around the last couple of days of June of every year, they release their decisions on major cases. That's not to say that there are other cases that we've had decisions on throughout their term, because their term starts in, like, I think September, and it goes all the way until June, and they get like the summer off, and there's other cases, there's a shadow docket and all that, and that's a whole nother thing. But for the most part, major controversies and cases are summed up by the end of June of every year.
Right.
And so for me, as a lawyer and a college professor and just someone that's an advocate for social justice and different things that I do, within the law and advising and helping people. I mean, I do a little bit of everything. It's amazing at how many different things and hats I wear as a lawyer and a college professor. But with that being
Just a
said,
little,
and by the
little humble
way,
brag. But
yeah,
Ali said, "Then they
but I don't get
bragging if
enough
you can
money
back it
for
up."
it. Then my bank account reflects me living as a janitor, not to belittle janitors, but in fact, there's a lot of janitors' bank accounts I'm probably envious of. Um, but I'm saying all of this to say that there were 6 cases that we're going to talk about today. Some of them you've heard over and over again, like birthright citizens, and then other stuff like what was going on with Sister Lisa Cook at the Federal Reserve and stuff like that. And one reason why it's always been interesting to me, at least I've always taken note to it, because I'm in 50 plus, and from the time I was like 5 or 6, I've always read newspapers. Yes, it started in the comics and it moved to sports and then reading articles. And truth be told, God rest his soul, happy Father's Day to all the fathers belatedly. But my grandfather, who my show is named after, the Felix Files, came to Chicago with a 3rd grade education as a kid of a sharecropper. He was not the greatest reader in the world. And he would have me read the newspaper. Little did he know it would create this young boy who's always been nerdy. I know some of y'all see me do that from time to time with my glasses, but I've always been like really, really nerdy. And so I've always been aware of, once I understood what the Supreme Court and understanding, and this has been going on in our country before I was born, and it'll probably continue, where they have this major rollout of their opinions and different things like that. And it's kind of like when the new pope is being chosen. You just wait and see who's going to get it. So this Supreme Court is very, very interesting. One, there is a 6-3 divide, and this is probably the first time in my lifetime where it's been that way. It's been mainly like 5-4. I think early in my life, the liberals held more seats at one point. But even when it was, 5-4 decisions, uh, liberals missed the day of Scalia. I know they do. And you don't like the decisions, but Scalia, even though I didn't agree with some of the things he's written, but it's brilliantly written. It is a legal argument, even though I would say there's some ideological bends and twists, pretzel making with his, but he sets it completely normally under legal thoughts. He was a textualist. The language meant what the language means. I'm different. I think it's hard for the writers and drafters of the Constitution to have a concept of what the world looks like today. And so I view the Constitution as framework, and where actually it shouldn't fall to the justices to be making law. And that's what's been happening, because our Congress people are shirking their responsibility of writing effective legislation. That's at the local level, the state level, and the national level. These individuals we're voting for, who are charged with writing the law, cannot write their way out of a Wendy's bathroom, and so that is one of the problems, that the laws are so broadly written when it's just another couple of words. And I get it. You do that to get compromised. But at the end of the day, you're giving it to a body. And if I want to get political, since 1999, when George Bush and we went through what we went through with that election in 2000, the court has been packed by presidents who we might want to question, how were they elected? And speaking of Bush, with the ruling in Florida, I've never forgotten about that. If you go there and Gore wins, Justice Roberts isn't there.
Yeah.
Okay?
That part.
See, I'm old enough to remember those things. He's not there. And that changes the whole shape of the court. We had already had under Chief Rehnquist a justice that had a strong conservative bend. When I believe Chief Justice, you can decide how you're going to decide. But when it comes to bringing cases and upholding the law and holding the other two um, parts of the government, the Congress and the president, the executive and the legislative body accountable, Justice Roberts tends to walk more towards the having an ideological and what people ideological bend, and what people don't realize is for years, and I'm talking over the last 150 years, they've created a network on the conservative side, the Federalist Society, and I, I don't agree with them, but what I do like about law school, we had open debates about policy and law, and did, because I'm a part of the American Constitution Society. It's a relatively new organization, but it's to counter the Federalist Society. So it's more of a liberal progressive group. We work with government officials, whether it's from the federal level to the state and local level, and making sure that we put qualified judges in positions, making sure we get these judges on the federal bench and in the Supreme Court and in your local circuit court. And these organizations also work with other organizations I've worked with in the past, such as Chicago Appleseed, that works on getting judges um, reelected and giving you a very nonpartisan look at a judge's record, who they are and what they're about. Because when people go vote, you're in most local jurisdictions and state jurisdictions, you're voting for judges at some point if you vote on a regular basis. And there's very little information about these judges. And a lot of these judges that become federal judges start at the state level, and so you need to know the person that is supposed to be judging everybody on their character and following the law, that is in charge of presenting that law. And I know I'm giving a classroom lecture because I'm going to bring it home, and then we'll talk about the Supreme Court cases, because what happened in Texas might not happen with a judge.
And real quick,
that
just tell people, the viewers, what happened in Texas, because, like I said, for those who
so
didn't go to law school.
you have Mr. Anthony, who gets into a physical altercation
Oh yeah,
with
Carmelo,
another.
that story. Yeah,
Yeah,
we talked about it a
he
lot
gets
here.
into a yeah, and so he gets into a physical altercation. I don't want to relitigate the case, but the point is, a fair judge would never have let the prosecution get away with what they did in jury selection, some of the evidence, some of the conflicts of interest. Not saying that Mr. Anthony wouldn't have won or lost the case, but I'm just saying it's hard to play a basketball game if the refs come into the game already making sure you lose.
Right.
That's basically what's happening.
They got on the other team's jersey instead of the
Yeah,
ref.
they got on instead of the stripes. They're rah-rahing for the prosecution, and that's not what a judge does. And people have to understand that. That's why it's important that more young Black, Latino, Asian women, all types of various genders and affiliations, get opportunities to participate as judges, prosecutors, and public defenders, because these individuals reflect the population. It also reflects how law should be administered. There's a lot of ways I feel about different cases, but what I always try to do is give everybody a factual understanding of that. And so that brings us to the first one.
So
I hope I answered your question.
good. Let me pause you there. So because we will start off with birthright citizenship, but I want to kind of reverse engineer this for the barbershops and the beauty salons and put it where the ghosts can get it, as my grandfather and Joe Madison would say.
Yes, definitely.
So okay, all the media accounts, I use that in air quotes,
Right.
all the postings on social media, the
Right.
birthright citizenship vote
Mm-hmm.
was 6-3. I mean, six judges
Yes.
voted well, that's the tricky part. So here's where I'm going. So the birthright citizenship vote was 6-3, but the
Mm-hmm.
birthright citizenship opinion was
Mm-hmm.
5-4. So
Mm-hmm.
explain that, and what was really what, and for those, like I said, for the barbershops and the beauty salons, just kind of real simple. What is this whole what is birthright citizenship?
Um, it under the 14th Amendment, because of the Dred Scott case, I'm not sure if everybody remembers history, but shortly after the Civil War, as Jim Crow and once Reconstruction is basically at its end, there were laws passed throughout the South that did not treat black ex-slaves as all rights and privileges as a United States citizen. The Dred Scott case, just off the top of my head, um, involved, I believe, in Louisiana, where there was an individual who was black, but more of what they call mulatto. Not that it should matter, but mulattoes are blacks that are light skinned. Many of them could pass, and it's a particular term, although it's used widespread, that really talks about Louisiana in particular. And it's for you to go learn the history of Louisiana and you'll understand why.
What year was his?
But
What year was that, Shawn?
I
What is a?
think this is I
Don't worry
gotta
about it.
look it up
Yeah,
off the top of my head. I
yeah.
mean, and I know some of my law friends are like, man, you know this off the top of your head. But to be honest,
What year was Dred
I'm
Scott
50
decision?
plus a year old man, and sometimes I just forget things, what years and stuff like that.
Oh, it
But
was
the Dred Scott
1857.
decision, yeah, 1857. So this is prior to civil rights, before the Civil War, and it's the grandfather to what happens after the Civil War with
Yes.
Jim Crow and all of that.
Yes. Excellent point.
And so basically, what the decision said, that black people had no rights that needed to be recognized by white folks in the United
Yep.
States. And so during the Civil War and post-Civil War, the 14th Amendment comes in, that basically means that if you are a child born in the United States, and ex-slaves are warranted all rights and privileges as a citizen of the United States. Why is that important? In this situation, President Trump, on his first day of office, wrote an executive order, stating that he was going to revoke birthright citizenship. Well, as many of us said, you can't do that. It would take an act of Congress and amendments to the 14th Amendment in order to do that. It, I'm from the opinion that the words mean what they mean. And basically, within the 14th Amendment, it says all children born in the United States are under the jurisdiction of the United States. And in regular terms, that means you are a citizen of the United States. It does not matter whether your parents have legal status. It does not matter whether, because there's different ways that once you do this, it can apply. Let me just give you a minor way. A person that is being held in prison that gives birth to a baby is under the jurisdiction of the United States, but there's a way that that could be twisted, and if that person is a foreign national, that child not be a citizen of the United States.
I
Why is
didn't
that
know that.
important? Because
Wow.
child that's born in the United States deserves all the rights and privileges, meaning if a child is born in prison, that mother has rights to that child has rights under the Constitution. They shouldn't be jailed or violated. They haven't done anything except be born to a person that is under the jurisdiction of the United States for a crime that they committed. Okay, end of story. So if you wipe that away, that child could be subject to just be shipped out of the country while the mother is going through adjudication or serving a sentence and not deserve all the rights and privileges. That's just one way. And that's already been happening when you talk about immigrants and different things like that, because that has been standard. And I'm sure, I don't know this for sure, but I'm sure there's journalists out there looking at this, that situation has happened with illegal immigrants during this administration, where they've had children in the United States and they've shipped the child away while they hold a parent for whatever. And we may not know that until administrations change. But the bigger story here is that if you can take that citizenship, then you can work it all the way backwards until only white immigrants and white people of Christian faith have citizenship. So it's good the court has done that. But the reason why you have the 5-4 written opinion is because you have a justice who voted to uphold birthright citizenship, but they didn't necessarily agree with the way the decision was written, meaning that, if I remember right off the top of my head, one of the justices almost spoke of how Congress could write a law and amend to pull that.
Oh yeah, I think that was Mr.
Right.
Kavanaugh.
Kavanaugh. There we go. I really like talking
Mr.
about him because
I love
it makes
drinking
me
beer.
angry.
I love
Yeah,
drinking
it makes me angry because this kind of goes back to where I've talked about elections have consequences. And we got into, on the Democratic side, the purity test about Hillary Clinton, instead of not realizing that, well, there's twofold with this. Now, this is no disrespect to Justice Ginsburg, but truth be told, she should have stepped down while President Barack Obama was in power in the first term. That's the truth. Just like the next time a Democrat is in charge, next time a Democrat is in charge, it's probably a good idea that Justice Sotomayor steps down. So
well,
that
on that point, let me just pause you. Did I read incorrectly that Mr. Alito said he was going to retire?
yes, that's been retracted.
I pause you just for that point. That they're already thinking. I was like, all right, dude, we need to get another MAGA dude on here, because we probably gonna lose this thing for a while. So
yeah, but if he doesn't do it now or soon, and it switches over, they probably won't have the votes to just put anybody there.
If they lose the Senate,
So it's a wrap. And I think that's why they're trying to force the issue, and he probably does not want to retire just yet. Neither does I think Clarence Thomas would probably be a likely candidate to retire before Alito does it. I think Alito feels like he probably can keep going for a little while. That's just the way he comes across. Whereas Clarence Thomas, I think he's stolen as much as he can, and he
got his sugar daddy Harlan Crow, so he got his billionaire
right.
paid for his mama house and sent his nephew to college.
Right.
So yeah, he
got
a big RV, go all around the country.
Right. But basically, the birthright citizenship question is still probably, well, if he doesn't try to do it fast, and I don't think they'll pull it off, it could be brought up by another MAGA style takeover of government. Now they have a blueprint. We need to write a law and hopefully garner enough states and senators to push to amend. But I think right now that's highly unlikely.
Yeah, because
I think the other case.
Let me just on that point, so the viewers get it. So to amend or change the Constitution, you got to have 2/3
of the states ratify it.
Right. So I mean, 2/3 of the states have to go along with that, and then you got to get 2/3 of the vote in that U.S. House and the Senate. Am I right? Which is a huge,
It's a huge hill, but if you just look at the red on the map right now, and with the control, you can make it interesting right now in this environment. You know, it's hard to get to 67 senators.
You don't have that.
That you could get to. You know, there has been times
You can't
in
even get
recent
that.
history.
You can't get 2/3 in the House.
Yeah, but there have been recent times where we had a House that would vote 2/3. Where I think what year was that? It might have been during the Trump first term.
Okay.
In that first set where I think they had like 240 something seats.
Okay.
So
But they
at
didn't have
240,
67. They didn't have 67 senators.
yeah, I think the 67 senators is the bigger hill to climb, especially in this environment. That's why I said that probably won't happen. Just like other things that we would like to see, just on a side note, getting rid of the electoral college probably won't happen because it runs up against the same wall. There's a couple of other
To change
things
that,
I know.
you would basically need the same 2/3 of the states would have to agree, and then you got to get 67 senators and 2/3 of 535. That's so it's 300 and something. I'm doing the math in my head.
I think the easiest one to get to, and I heard a valid argument. I'm gonna do a little research on this. When we came with 9 Supreme Court justices, there were 9 federal districts. Now there's 13. We need 13 Supreme Court justices.
And just since you went there, Shawn, explain to people that number of 9 Supreme Court justices is not in the Constitution. There were more and less before. That number has fluctuated.
Yeah, it's believed that it kind of follows the number of federal districts because each justice is responsible for a district to some extent. And so if we followed that, 13 would actually be the number. And I think they need to be capped at, you can't be more than 82 years old and be a justice. I think that's fair, but I think it also needs to, in increments of maybe every 25 years, drop 5 years. So it's 77, and then eventually it's capped at like 70. You know, I think.
Or do like they did with the presidency, like you can only serve maybe, if not 2 terms, 3 terms, that you can't.
I don't really
can't
like
do this
that
lifetime
one.
deal. Yeah, you can't do that.
Yeah, I don't really like that one because I don't like that one necessarily.
So what would,
there's reasons.
I was just throwing it out. So what do you think would be what would be your sweet spot?
I think making it so you have to have practiced or been a judge or something up until you're like 42.
Okay.
And then the window is initially from 42 to 82.
Okay.
And then it drops down and it levels at 45 being the age cap for you to become a justice, and 70 being the maximum. That means anybody that gets in there could do no more than 35 years. And even when they leave, they would go to like more of a senior circuit where they could give advisory stuff or write advisory or opinions or something like that. But I think it needs to be reframed in a different way. For me, it's become a little too political and borderline corrupt. I won't say corrupt as a whole, but I think there are a few individuals that operate from a corrupt position that they're not looking at laws as being neutral.
Well, you can't
they're
say
actually putting their hands on the scale.
Well, you can't say it, but I can, because I mean, what Clarence Thomas and Sam Alito, all the money and the perks and the gifts. It's not a secret. It's not speculation. It's out in the open.
Yeah.
And
it's not like agree with that.
Yeah, this is not no alleged kind of,
No question. I agree with that. And in certain things I can be very direct about, and then there's other things. I think that one of the problems is that the court has become more of a political body, and it's not designed to be political. It's designed to review and give a nonpartisan evaluation of laws, conflicts, controversies. That's it. It's not there to make policy or make law. It's there to interpret the meaning of these laws. And I realize that some things they try to interpret, it's hard to get it because the founders wrote this, and you have mixed opinions. You have strict textualists on the court, and you have people that I'm more aligned with that believe the Constitution is a breathing, living document because we continue as a country to live and breathe and evolve. And it's hard for me to believe that the founders in 1776 would have a concept of what things really would look like in 2026.
The internet, AI, any of that. They had
Right. It just all the way from that. And so I think that that's important to remember, especially for a person that has heritage as a black man that was less than human, was chattel
3/5
when
of
this
a human,
document
right.
was was written. Right.
Property.
And that has been oppressed by the use of this document. I realize I live a interesting duality as a lawyer, and most black individuals in this country that participate in that are a part of the profession I choose. We live in very interesting duality, but we also live with the recognition that this is one of the few countries on earth that if you succeed at gaining political power, you can change and adjust that document. You can write and create laws that benefit people and that benefit your community. And I think that's the most important thing to talk about. I know we got sidetracked a little bit.
No, what's
from the
important? I
Supreme
just
Court.
because there was a lot of confusion with the 6-3. So the 6-3 they voted against the executive order. Basically, it's like no,
Right, right. Because the executive order is why this is being brought. And just remember, executive orders do not have the full force of the law. They're just basically the president giving
pull something out of his ass
instructions.
because he don't
Yeah,
like.
or being a perpetual crybaby and saying, "Look at me, I'm this and that." But that also touches on something we'll talk about a little later, by the fact that Justice Sotomayor um, um, really went in and spoke out about how she felt about the court giving the president so much power. The fact that the president, through an earlier decision late last week, basically the Supreme Court saying that the president can fire heads and individuals and independent agencies. That's dangerous. But I want to remind people, and this is another thing you need to think about when you vote, and in this case, when you vote for president, that you are voting to hire the person that will make sure the people that run your agency or the agencies we need are not corrupt or criminal or bankrolling whatever their own private enterprise. And so I want to just point out to the Republicans, they're going to rue the day with this decision because Brian Carr, under a Democrat, on that day one will be fired.
Oh, you talking about Brendan Carr, the head of the FCC?
He's gone.
Brendan Carr, yeah.
And the Postmaster General, he's out of there. The head of the FBI, he's toast. I mean, so I'm fine if that's what we're gonna do, but if I'm Congress, I write a law to I'm trying to understand the justification for them having that power. But again, keep in mind, Justice Roberts, history will record how this court has functioned, and I don't think he's going to like what his legacy looks like moving forward. He will be the example of what not to do as Chief Justice.
Right.
I think that's that's the nicest way I can put it right now. The other one last case that I think out of the 6 that I think is important is because on the flip side, on where the president can fire individuals at agencies, he can't fire Lisa Cook from the Federal Reserve until her term is up because she's a term nominated individual who who was Senate confirmed. And so there's a little different. The president in this case for the Federal Reserve gets to nominate. The Senate confirms. It's harder to remove someone that is Senate confirmed to an independent agency. Plus, the Federal Reserve has an extra layer of independence from the federal government because it's our monetary agency.
Yeah. Because I was just going to say that those I guess you could say like a cabinet positions, they are supposedly Senate confirmed. Now they'll do interim because they can't.
But they work at the pleasure of the president. That's a little different.
But the
Federal Reserve it doesn't work
totally
at the pleasure of the president. They're nominated by the president. They ran through confirmation through the Senate, but that's pretty much as far as it goes. It's probably similar to Postmaster General. You probably wouldn't be able to just fire the Postmaster General without cause. But I'm sure the next president in the next administration can show cause because he's followed presidential instructions that seem to flout or violate the law.
Mm-hmm. Interfere with mail-in ballots, which this same court surprisingly
just said you can't do that.
Can't do that.
That's another case that came out that it was brought by students saying that, I'm away at school, I qualify for an absentee ballot, I'm mailing my ballot in with a stamp on the day of or before the election, and they were saying it shouldn't be counted. The court said, yes, it should be counted as long as it's stamped on the day of or before the election. So the only thing I would be concerned about is nefarious postal workers who are partisan. It doesn't matter because see, what I want MAGA people and Republicans and conservatives to remember, your days of being in power are slowly but surely numbered, and one day Democrats are going to be in power. And so I'm not for how they play ball, but I understand, and I'm urging Democrats to play hardball. But that doesn't mean you don't play fair.
Right.
And so I want there to be boundaries, so that
accountability.
And I think that's what accountability and boundaries, because these individuals in this current administration that shirk subpoenas and don't ignore Congress, what's to say the next Democratic, because if I'm president, maybe I operate how they operate. Yeah, you didn't say nothing then. I'm gonna do what I want to do then, and I think that's very dangerous.
I do. Yeah, I agree with you. Yeah. I'm a lefty, but I'm a lefty because I like to debate and let's come away with the best idea. Right.
We're
gonna play by the rules. We're not gonna change the rules in the middle of the game. No.
Yeah, and nobody's all one thing. I mean, if you sat and talked to me about gun policy, you swear up and down that I was some right-wing gun nut. You know what I'm saying? So I don't think that's, wise. But yeah, when it comes to social and economic policy, yeah, I'm left. I tend to be
I wouldn't say a right-wing
progressive.
I wouldn't say right-wing MAGA. I would say more closer to the early Malcolm and the Fred Hampton and the Huey P. Newtons. It's like, hey, listen, you got this Second Amendment, So
Yeah.
y'all,
I'm more, yeah,
yeah,
that's exactly
you
right.
got these stand your ground laws. So I
Yeah,
got I
right.
got a legal right to stand my ground.
Right. And that's the way I feel about it, which is going to be interesting. Just to give you a preview of the 2027 court, 2026 to 2027, we're going to finally have the discussion about whether states can ban AR-15s and those different type of weapons. Um, I believe there should be a caveat with it that, if you own the weapon, just like I got to go make sure my car is registered, and in order to keep my carry concealed, I have to practice and continue to shoot at a legal rate. I think that should be the same with those items. But I also, to a certain extent, believe that, at the end of the day, everybody shouldn't have it. Whether the government should decide who has it and who doesn't, is another question. And I don't agree with that, because my fear is, in the climate we're in right now, a lot of people in my political persuasion and that look like me are sitting flat foot on
Well,
I
I
know a
think
whole lot of people that
let's
I
put
know a whole lot of white people that own tons of these weapons. I don't know too many black people that have. I know some, but I don't know too many black people that have these weapons.
well, I don't know a whole lot. Maybe may not have this cachet of like 500 or, but we're more armed than we were. Let's say
I,
in 2008, almost 20 years ago,
yeah,
because
I definitely agree with that.
in the last 4 years, the number I don't know, you saw the data too. I'll let you wrap up.
Yeah,
It was that
it's
the
went up.
largest the demographic by race and gender that was purchasing the
Black
most
women.
guns were black women.
Black women, right. You should have voted for Kamala, y'all. Because the sisters are packing. You might not want to run up on everybody with braids. You know what I'm saying? You might catch
Sean,
one.
especially in these southern states that's got these
Yeah.
where
Oh, yeah.
anybody
No
damn body
question.
can carry a gun. It's like,
Yeah, you're right. You're right.
don't F around to find out. Cause
Yeah, in Illinois, they'll send you through a little drama, but it's not. I warned some of my Southern friends. It's not as unarmed as you think
No, that's
in
true.
Illinois.
Right. I got friends and family members that, yeah, there's.
People will go get their FOIA card
Yeah,
and go
yes,
take that class for the weekend. And Unc, who you running up on, talking about, Unc, what you gonna do? Unc will put two in your chest and call them people on the phone and be okay. You know what I'm saying? So I think that it's going to be interesting with that. The other case I want to talk about, because I think this is important, because it is a little bit of a big deal, but not as big as the media is probably going to make it.
Okay.
Is the Republican Party against the FEC. What is the FEC? The Federal Election Commission. And what is it about? Kind of widening what Citizen United said, that money is speech and that corporations
thank
are
you.
allowed to donate. What this ruling is saying, and so that people really understand, and don't get me wrong, Citizen United there needs to be something done about it. And I think that could be a great bipartisan thing, but who knows? But what it basically is saying is that the Republican Party or the Democratic Party can coordinate with candidates and donate from the party level as much money as they want to that candidate. What a lot of people may not know, unless you've donated to political campaigns. Truth be told, the first time I ever donated to a political campaign was when President Barack Obama was running, and I worked on the campaign. I actually worked and became a paid person coordinating stuff. And I learned a lot about how elections work by doing the work. So prior to this, it was kind of like this cap where, you can only give so much to each thing. I think it's something to be concerned. I also think that this means you as an individual can donate individual, but definitely make sure you're giving money to the party so that they can send money to the individual candidates. I know what you're saying is that I may not agree with the Democrats on everything, and I don't want my money going to Fetterman. I totally get that. And that's why I believe in donating to individual uh, parties. But what I do from time to time is I will give the Democratic Party of South Carolina $500. I'm more concerned with them electing Democrats than the nuances between them because I don't live there anymore. But I want to see it become a blue purple state and support Democrats in South Carolina. Whereas here, I live in Illinois, I can kind of go and say, okay, even though I don't live in Chicago, hypothetically, I'm going to support candidate X for mayor, even though I don't live there. But I'm in Lauren Underwood's district. So of course I give to Lauren
Shout out to
Underwood.
her. Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? I give her money. And then I give money to the Democratic Party in the state of Illinois because as the type of Democrat I am, overall, it works for me in Illinois. Even the most conservative Democrat, I'm only gonna be mad at them about little stuff. You know what I'm saying? Not nothing real major. They're not gonna do a Fetterman to me.
No.
But I might be mad. Why you taking APAC money?
Right,
Stupid?
and get reelected. They won't pull that stunt and get reelected. They know that.
And if I yell at them enough, they're gonna be like, "I'm so sorry. What can I do? To make it right." Okay, cool. That's different. But and so what I'm urging is this isn't necessarily a terrible thing. We just, as Democrats, gotta stop going to gunfights with straws. You know what I'm saying? That's not working. They have
okay,
guns.
wait. Let me before you. I know we're getting ready to wrap up, but translate. So, because here's my thing. I say take all the money out of it.
That would be great,
campaign
but
financing.
we have to get there first. And I agree with you that the best thing we could possibly do to say the inflation wouldn't be so high, we wouldn't be paying for all this money for gas, electricity, arguing about AI centers, poor pollution. If we took money out of the politics and made them publicly financed, where everybody gets X amount of dollars, and then everybody gets X amount of time, and everybody has to participate in X amount of debates. I don't care if you're running for dog catcher, where we all get to see it and move on from that. But what it is people don't understand. And maybe I'll take time to look up the information, or somebody that has Chat GPT, you could do this. How much does the campaign industrial complex make from elections? What am I talking about?
Yes, these consultants get millions of dollars.
The television, the media. One of the reasons why
That's a good point,
corporate
Shawn.
media will not report on how terrible politicians are because they're taking their money for elections. That is like, let me give you an example. If it would be called collusion if you ran a business and you fixed rates in that business for people to pay you to determine the product, in this case, media time, and you coordinated with other media outlets to do it. That's what they're doing. And the politicians give them money. That's why you can't get people on Fox, the whole Republican MAGA candidates accountable, because they're getting money from them during the campaign. It benefits their coffers. Ain't nobody, when I watch some of these networks, I see a Northrop Grumman military plane commercial where they showing us the military plane. I ain't buying that. You ain't buying that. That's not for us. That's for the military industrial complex to pay off the media. That's all it is.
I agree.
And they're doing the same thing with the politicians. I'm glad people have awakened to AIPAC. This is not an anti-Semitic rant.
Not at all.
Israel can do whatever they want to do in their country, but Israel should have no political power here in this country. Because I have no political power in Israel. Hell, if they read my Facebook posts, although I've never said anything ill about Israel like that, they probably won't let me in the country. And so I have a problem when I'm being told in the country that I was born and raised in, my rights don't matter, and my money goes overseas to bomb brown and black
Come on,
children
that part.
and poor children
That
all
part.
over the world.
That part.
I have a problem with Elon Musk, a trillionaire, getting money for his little plaything called SpaceX, that every few months some shit blow up. I want to go back to the model where it was NASA. And remember, John F. Kennedy said we will go to the moon in XYZ. We need that type of shit.
Right.
I don't want private enterprise taking over government function.
Right.
And people get mad and call it socialism. Well, fuck you. You've been saying that for years. It doesn't stick. We live in a quasi hybrid socialist country where we have socialist police, socialist military, socialist healthcare to some extent, not the way I think it should be. I think you should be able to go to the doctor and don't pay a bill and it's already paid because you ain't paid enough fucking taxes for it to be paid.
So-
but that's a whole nother political
So let's
speech
talk
and everything.
on that note. Let me just I'm gonna end my part with this and give you the last word. So for all
Okay.
you all to talk about, and then they try to conflate and confuse. Well, socialists and communists. Shut up, Stephen Miller, with your little racist light bulb
He's
head,
stupid.
onion head ass. You wouldn't know
Don't
what
talk to stupid
socialism or communism was if they tattooed it on your damn forehead. So
He's
if you
a
want to talk about
Nazi. He's a fascist.
Right, if you wanna
That's
talk
what
about
Stephen
social-
Miller is.
if you want to talk about socialism, let's talk about $8 million a day that Elon Musk companies get in our tax dollars. So for all y'all red hat wearing, are you good with this trillionaire? Why are you struggling? You can't even afford medicine. You choosing between you cutting pills in half because you can't afford your medicine, because your gas is $5 a gallon, and your rent for a little 2-bedroom in a trailer park is over $2,000.
And grandma finna get kicked out of that nursing
Right.
home because they don't want to pay money
Get
for
rid of
grandma
Medicaid
through
and
Social
Medicare.
Security
Right.
to go that. And oh, by the way, you wondering why you got, even if you got good credit, why you got to protect it because somebody trying to steal your stuff because Elon Musk took all our data and just sent it out into the ether while he became a trillionaire. And so as soon as my stuff get breached, I'm suing him. I'm gonna be the first person to do it.
So my point is that if we're going to talk about socialism, we're going to educate you, because what we have now is a form of socialism for billionaires.
Jesus was a socialist.
Exactly. For all you
he
so-called Christians.
I'm sorry. Those people in particular that you're talking about, they're Christians with a K. They're not talking about Jesus. They're talking about Jeebus. That's what me and my partner, she and I laugh whenever I see right wingers on TV praying. I say, "Uh-oh, they praying to Jeebus."
Right. It's a racist remix version of Christianity that basically,
Yes, it
when they
is.
brought that King James
Yes.
Bible and took out
Yes.
several hundred
They took out several books for sure.
several hundred
Yeah.
books out of the original Bible. And for those who, if we're gonna really understand,
Look up the Council of
Christianity-
Nicaea. I
Yeah.
always like to drop
Thank
that
you.
on people. Look up the Council of Nicaea.
Right.
There was one black man there, and then we can come back and have the discussion.
Right. And
The other thing is, I'm a firm believer that while I have a relationship with God, I have attended certain forms of Christian church, but they've all been like liberation Christian churches. And let me say this, I will never take on my ancestors' oppressors' religion. I acknowledge that there is a universal creator that is a part of our being, but I'm not where they are, where they believe that Jesus would want you harming people because they're different, whether it's different gender, different sexuality, different color, different socioeconomic status, different countries. I don't believe that. And the Bible that I grew up with was a King James version, but the church homes that I've had over my lifetime didn't preach hate. They preached liberation. They preached loving one another. They preached Jesus equals love, and that we're supposed to look out for the least of thee.
Well, see,
And
that's because
nothing that I hear from the current group of individuals running around talking about God and talking about Jesus is anything but love. Is hate. And in the book of James, it talks about what will happen to false prophets that mislead and misuse people. And I can take their same book and turn it against them. If I was really a lowlife, I would become a pastor and probably be super paid. And so I just want it to be clear that when it comes to black folks' spirituality, yes, Christianity is mixed in there, but a lot of our core beliefs come from from Africa, and we follow a lot of those principles in our lives, whether we go to church or not. And I think it's important that that's shared because all of a sudden, whether you're a Christian has become a form of a litmus test in this country, and that's not the way the country is designed. You're allowed to worship how you want to or not worship how you don't have to. But to make it as a litmus test, to require it in school, unless it's a religious school that you choose to go to, I think is BS
well,
and unconstitutional.
and to put a bow on the Christianity conversation. First of all, your Bible and the churches you and I went to, they kept like the book of Matthew 23.
The Beatitudes.
MAGA
boy,
doesn't.
the
Yeah,
Beatitudes,
that part of
the
that
Sermon on the Mount.
yeah, their Bible it ain't got no Matthew, but here's the checkmate. Since we want to talk about all the MAGA cult members, ask your pastor on Sunday morning to read or just chat GPT and Google and read the origins of Christianity. What country, what region of the world did Christianity originate? And then Google, you can do this now since the show is over, Coptic Christianity, Coptic Christians. Ethiopia.
They're in Iraq, they're in Iran, where we're dropping bombs right now. They're all over the Middle East. And it's unfortunate that, I'm going to say this in wrapping up. I love my country. At the end of the day, any foreign invader, you're going to catch it. You come over here. But in the meantime, while we arguing, fussing, and fighting, I'm hoping we don't arrive in this place that I think we've kind of been delaying since the 70s, where it just becomes this purification test of what's American and what's not. And the funny thing is, I've traveled abroad and had parents in the military. If you want to embarrass yourself, and some of you MAGA people have already done it, go overseas and get lost and say, "Well, I'm American." They're gonna look at you like you crazy. Why? There's North America, South America on the globe, but we live in the United States. When I've been overseas, when they ask you what's you're a citizen, I've heard people. I've been in line with people in front of me. Oh, I'm American. Like what? Where are you from? Are you from Canada? Are you from Mexico? Are you from the United States? I'm a United States citizen. Yes, I love being a United States a citizen, but I hate how the country is being ran now. I don't hate it enough to hurt or kill anybody. I hate it enough to go out here and vote, protest, support candidates, talk out, speak out against it. But if something could change that, this country is born from conflict. It's been for 250 years. I think there's only like 25 years we haven't been at war with each other or somebody else.
That's true.
That's deep. That's something to think about. And I think up until I was about 25 or 30, I knew we did all of these different things and different things happened in the country and there was all this, but I didn't realize that until I just stopped and thought about all the things I learned and like, wow, the country is born out of violence. It's constantly at argument with somebody, whether it's within or outside. That's just nasty. Would you want to be around a person like that?
And Shawn, let me just say this. I think this is a beautiful way to wrap up. Even though I said, listen, America never loved people to look like you and me. So I love us. I love the culture. I love black people, but I lean into common humanity. That means that I have love for anybody that sees my humanity. Period. Because this race it was created by wealthy Europeans to pit poor Europeans against people of color, because the majority of this planet are people who have melanin in them to begin with. So, but
And you're not saying that from a position of being supremacist or anything. You're just simply stating a
that's
fact.
biology
And I
and
think,
anthropology.
yeah, and I think the majority of black people, we come from a loving place because it's ingrained in our DNA to know what oppression feels like, what it feels like to just be at the bottom. I don't dwell there, and I can't stand it when people call that I'm playing victim. I'm just simply repeating my history and what happened to my ancestors. But it ain't never stopped me. If anything, all it's done is driven me, propelled me to
Thank you.
do everything and anything I wanted to do. I worked for some great people in radio, and I worked for some real shitty people in radio. But it didn't stop me from growing and becoming who I wanted to be, and how I was going to develop my own thing. And thanks to those shitty people and those great people, I'm building my own stuff.
And
And
so,
now we live in a day and age where we all can build our own thing and whatever we want to build it in.
right, and bottom line, so on this week when America is celebrating a birthday on
Leave
Saturday.
George Bush alone. Leave my dude.
America. So for all you all that's going to be celebrating White Juneteenth today, understand, until this country not only reckons with, but somehow atones to how it was originally formed through genocide and human trafficking and kidnapping.
Not to mention rape
Yeah,
and,
all of that.
probably molestation.
Yeah, right. So until the famous line
It's from
in,
Oprah until you do right by
there
me.
you go. You're right.
From the
Come
color
on. I was
purple.
going to color pink,
Oprah,
color purple. Until
that
you
is
do right
Whoopi
by me,
Goldberg's
ain't nothing
greatest line ever.
Yeah. So America, until you do right by the original people, the native citizens,
Yeah. Yes,
the
definitely.
Africans our
Yes.
ancestors, and to
Some of
the
the
poor
European,
Europeans that you ran this con
yes,
on
yes,
of
yes,
race.
yes.
Because you
I'm
don't
from
give a shit
Chicago,
about them
and
either.
yeah, I'm from Chicago, and I know enough Italians and enough Irish people that went through it and that sided with us, and that's always been down. Same thing with Jewish brothers and sisters and Asian brothers and sisters. I totally, all of that. And I don't wish no harm on none of them. Even the ones that don't like me, you don't know me, and as long as you don't touch me, we don't have no problem or mess with mine. And so that's the way I see it. I ain't out for no hate. I don't have no problem. Let me tell you one thing I learned in the South. First of all, and they gave me permission to say it, this is not a racial slur because y'all use it all the time. And don't tell me, well, N word is used by you. This is totally different. I know some rednecks in South Carolina right now. If I called them and told them I was in trouble, they would drive the 16 hours to Chicago and come here and handle business for me. That's love because they know the type of person I am, and I feel the same way about them. So I know race don't play a part. That's an artificial construct, and that's some bullshit. But what I am aware of in 2026, if I ain't never known it, that at the end of the day, there's about 75% of the people that don't look like me, don't have melanin like me and you, that will choose to side with people that look like them, even without fact, proof, or anything.
And
I
when is
know that
it?
don't apply to all of them, and
Right.
so I don't approach all white people like that. But when you show it to me, I call it out without hesitation. I'm always be like that. And the final thing I'm gonna say is Fred Hampton was exactly right, and this is what everybody needs to think about. Both sides need to think about my side and the other side that ain't righteous. Fire don't put out fire. Water can only put out fire. And so at some point, everybody got to sit down at the table. If we're going to live together in harmony or we going to hang together in protest. But one way or another, we got to figure this shit out. Because guess what? The time of us being at the top dog has ended by incompetence of incompetence over the years, but especially right now. And so guess what? Once this is sinking and falling, an outside invader is coming. That's historical. That's actual. And it may not be a marching army. It might be through this cyber or cutting off our economy, but they're coming. You know, and we've allowed ourselves to be open to what's going to happen because we over here bickering and arguing about stupid shit. So it's coming.
Hello, China. Hello, China. Okay.
All of them, Russia, all of these people, Saudi Arabia, don't count out none of these people. You know what I'm saying? On the real, South African whites, they moving them here. I don't trust them. Look what they did during, I remember apartheid.
And putting them up in land and businesses.
Right. That's another conversation for a whole nother thing. Because one of my guidelines for anybody I vote on the Democratic ticket to be president is you have to remove, just like you removing Haitians that came here, Syrians, Venezuelans, you have to remove South Africans from this country that were brought here under some racial animus, and you know they were. I want them removed. But that's a whole nother conversation. Thank you so much, brother, for having me on the show.
Come on, family. Man, listen, you brilliant. I love you. We could have these conversations. So, but thank you, man, for bringing your brilliant legal mind and breaking it down.
You're welcome.
For the barbershops and the beauty salons.
Yeah.
So now y'all can go
Shout out to the barbershop, and
have an educated conversation and just go ahead and play Shawn back, and he'll you know, educate.
Definitely.
And some of y'all gonna screw up what he said, so I hope you either take notes, because you know, like a joke, you know, we'll fuck up a joke now.
I appreciate it.
We'll remix some shit, Shawn.
I just want everybody to know, while I'm a nerd and I'm educated, I come from the same environment. I grew up in those barbershops as a little kid when I didn't know what was happening. That's how me and my grandfather bonded. Every other weekend, I went to the barbershop with him. And so there's a lot of powerful conversations happening in the barbershop. But what I've noticed over the last 10, 15 years is a lot of misinformation in the barbershop. So make sure y'all doing your research, following up. You can reach out to me on social media. I got the new show, The Felix Files, in honor of my grandfather and me. But you can also catch me on Geno Jones Show from time to time. Thank you so much, Geno. It's Taco Tuesday, and I'm in charge of the tacos, so I got to finish cooking.
Well, go ahead, man. Love you, brother. Appreciate you, man. Thank you.
Yeah, no doubt.
All right. That's my dude right there. Brilliant. Shawn Mitchell. Felix Shawn Mitchell. All right, everybody. We out. Thank you for letting me be a part of your life, as always. Thank you for sticking around. A little longer episode, but we have great conversations. You can learn a lot. Shawn is a brilliant brother. Thank you very much. Allie Jones, the official wardrobe consultant and stylist for the show. Check her out on Instagram on IG, lx.ncl_. lx.ncl_. We'll see you live Wednesday, 7:30 p.m. Eastern, 6:30 Central Time, 4:30 p.m. on the West Coast. I'll holler.
Subscribe and tune in to the next episode of The Geno Jones Show, exclusively right here on YouTube.